you come to, you'll hear me breathe.
It's kind of it's a long process disposing of an entire human being. Um, I have my fun. I saw a way. I make things look pretty in the way that I want them, and once I feel satisfied and I'm ready to call it a night and have a glass of wine and get in bed, I saw even more and hammer even more until pretty much everything is as packed in as possible. And, oh, yeah, well, I don't really want to call it skinning, but there's definitely it's a big bloody mess trying to strip as much skin and meat away as possible, so that once the hard parts of people, like the bones and stuff, are, at a point where they can too be burned, with some of the flesh and not a lot. I mean, it would smell way too much. It's a really obvious stench, so a lot of it I just try and make it look as gross and unhuman as possible and bag it up and throw it in a dumpster, so long as there aren't obvious, human, like, femurs and shoulder bones and, chest, like a chest plate. But it takes a long time. It takes all night. It's exhausting. It's just one of those things, there are, some people are professional athletes because from a young age, that's all they ever wanted to do. They felt like they had to. Same goes for musicians and writers and actors. I guess some of us just find our passion and our love at an early age and stick with it. So why? It's just because I love it, and I need it, just like a writer needs to, scribble something down on paper every day. It's fun. Pretty hands-on. I've never used a gun. I never will use a gun. Still, I don't know. I still think about tasers sometimes, just because I'm not a big person. So taking people down is not always easy, especially if it's somewhere that's not completely secluded. But drills are my favorite, and drills and saws probably are tied for number one. I also really like hammers. And I'm sure, if I was ever talked about on the news, dismembering, I'm sure, would be a word that was used, even though up until recently I always thought that meant cutting off penises. But then I did more research on what I do, and that's not a thing. But kind of just the average tool shed tool. I really like getting my hands dirty and everything else around me dirty.
How do you choose?
Um, I don't know, kind of the same way that I choose, what candy bar to pick up when I'm checking out at a grocery store. It's, I don't want to use the word impulsive, but to some degree, it kind of is. It's usually, whoever seems the most convenient and appealing at the time. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like there are a couple that I didn't really choose correctly. I could have chosen better. There are still other faces that stick out. Oops. There are still other faces that stick out in my mind that, maybe would have been more interesting for me. But, it's like taking a Snickers over a Three Musketeers. It's still going to be good. I'm still going to enjoy it. But there's no one in particular. I don't go out looking for a certain type of person or race or gender or age. It's, whoever I happen to look at the right way.
Children?
No, 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 never, never children, ever. It's, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I try to lift weights at least a couple of times a day just for upper body strength for that purpose alone because it's not hard. It takes a lot out of me. And then, sometimes it's not, I don't, a couple of them haven't been as much fun as, I was planning for because I was exhausted by the time I even got them in my car and got home. So, yeah, it's not easy, but it's just a lot of heavy breathing and sweating and dragging.
Do you have any favorites?
My first, actually, I guess is my favorite. Not that it was the most well done, or smooth one that I've done, but it was my first, and it was, I mean, that first, I guess people talk about like smoking crack, you're always chasing that first high, and just that complete relief and release and exhilaration of finally doing something that I had, terrified myself fantasizing about for years. And to actually finally be there doing it in that moment, I kept pausing because I felt like I was, either going to wake up any minute or like someone had slipped me drugs, and I was like, there's no way this is actually happening right now. There's no way that I'm actually killing this person that, I don't know. I don't really know how else to describe it. It was just absolutely fucking incredible. So I guess, yeah, my first was my favorite. I'm really thinking about, I don't know, I'm really particular about I really like bones and the smoothness. Well, I don't know if you've ever cut chicken bones or anything like that or any kind of animal bone, but there's something to, just sawing through a nice clean cut in a bone, and, especially once the blood's drained from whatever part of the body or animal that you've cut, wiping away that area and it just being this smooth bone. I haven't, sometimes it can be really hard to saw through, and I've butchered a couple of them. So to me, that's something going wrong. But, yeah, not wrong, I guess. I'm not in cuffs right now, so.
Are you afraid of that?
Am I afraid that something will go wrong in that area? Sure. I mean, yeah, it's terrifying. I would be an idiot to not be afraid. of getting caught and of the law, but it's kind of like weigh your pros and cons, and is that fear enough to stop? Fuck no. Um, anything funny? Um, I mean, a couple of times trying to lift the bodies, I've lost footing and just gone face first into this unconscious bleeding person that I'm trying to get home. And I'm pretty sure I've laughed into, a stranger's stomach before when I've just completely like face planted into them trying to lift them. My hand slips on their skin. I'm sweaty. Um, so, I mean, yeah, there's not really a graceful bone in my body. So my clumsiness, I guess, it can be pretty funny to me, at least. I don't know about them, but why am I talking? I think it's things that need to be said. I think maybe it's me knowing my inevitable fate. Maybe it's just because I got bored and wanted to, toot my own horn. But I think that serial killers have either always been grossly overrated or underappreciated. I don't think, and I think I know for certain that the public has never heard of someone like me. And I'm not saying I'm the only one of my age and of my upbringing that does this, but I don't know of one, and I've Googled it, and I can't find anyone. And I just think that this might someday, maybe no one else will ever hear this, but if they do, it might open up some people's eyes into, I guess, psychopathy and who serial killers really can be. I mean, Ted Bundy tried to address it a couple of times, but people stopped taking him seriously. That we're everywhere. We're your teachers and your neighbors and your daughters and your sisters. So I'm not ashamed. I'm Andy, and I'm a serial killer.
Yeah.